From the 2024 NHL Draft, I am Dan Kingerski on the Pittsburgh Hockey Now and the National Hockey Now YouTube channel. We're here kind of in the hallway of Encore. The draft was held at Sphere, but as soon as the draft was over, they basically tossed us all out, sent us over here to Encore. I'm in the hallway with the lovely pool area in the background there. I don't think you'll see anything, but there certainly are going to be some happy surgeons with the results out there. The Penguins, they did okay for themselves at the draft. We'll get into the picks in just a little while, but the big news was the trade. The Penguins acquire Kevin Hayes. You remember him from the Philadelphia Flyers, 6'5" centerman, a bit inconsistent, a bit soft. He and John Tortorella clashed. The Flyers, realizing that a 30-something center didn't fit with their rebuilding plans, ate 50% of his $7+ million salary and sent him along to St. Louis. Well, 1 year later, St. Louis sends him and a second-round pick back to the Penguins. And I guess that's the going rate. You saw the Detroit Red Wings and San Jose Sharks make the deal earlier in the week, where Detroit had to affix a second-round pick to salary, about $3.5 million, 3.4, to get rid of it. That's what St. Louis did, and that's what the Penguins had to accept to get that extra draft pick. All right, so that's the framework of the deal. And I guess I will jump ahead to one of the questions. Brian asked on Twitter, should the Penguins buy out Kevin Hayes? I think that is a distinct possibility 12 months from now. I don't think it happens right now. Here, let me run the numbers for you, because the Penguins would have to pay $2.2 million this season, $2.2 million next season, and then 2 seasons of $666,000 as that penalty. It would save the money, don't get me wrong, but I think what you'll see is they'll shoehorn Hayes into the lineup for at least 1 year. Now, if they do the same thing, if they buy out Hayes next summer, they get a savings of about $1.3 million in 1 year, and then they only spend about $666,000 in that second year, which is entirely, that is far more palatable. I don't think the Penguins would have jumped. I don't think Kyle Dubas would have jumped on acquiring Kevin Hayes just to buy him out immediately. I mean, honestly, I could be wrong. So it still makes a little bit of mathematical sense if they were to do it this summer. I know fans have just been dogpiling on Hayes. Here's what he should bring to the Penguins lineup. He is a big guy. He doesn't always use his size like he should, but he is a reliable third line center. Does give the Penguins the option to trade Lars Eller or Noel Acciari. It gives them more options. They can also move Kevin Hayes to the wing. He actually could play second line left wing with Evgeny Malkin. Basically, it's a Jeff Carter replacement deal is what Kevin Hayes is. Last season, he won 57% of his faceoffs. They'll just probably plug him into the Jeff Carter role, where he takes a lot of important faceoffs later in the game. He allows the coach to breathe a little easier, and we'll see where it goes. No, it's not an ideal situation, acquiring a player that really, I think, marginally helps them, but taking on $3.5 million. So the Penguins have somewhere around $7 million, I think, in salary cap space when all is said and done. So, they gave away a chunk for that second round pick next year. But think of it this way, though, too. St. Louis isn't a very good team. They're in that rebuilding stage or retooling. So that second round pick could very well be in the 30s next year. So that's the Kevin Hayes thing, and I'll make. Look at the lovely little gift that they gave us. It's like a leather-bound, or at least maybe vinyl-bound journal to take notes. So Ed asks if the Penguins are serious about shipping Lars Eller to Buffalo. Listen, I know Sportsnet, Elliot Friedman and Jeff Merrick were talking a bit about Eller and Riley Smith to Buffalo earlier in the week. I tend to think if there were serious legs to it, it would have happened because the Penguins could have used more draft picks today. I guess we've also seen them, take on Hayes to get a second-round pick next year. We know Dubas said he urgently wants to acquire more draft picks. Hayes would fill the Eller role. So I don't think you can discount trading a 34-year-old Lars Eller, trading Achari, trading Riley Smith. Certainly, I think if the Penguins got a healthy return, they would do it in a heartbeat. I don't think Dubas is holding on to them with any expectations or hopes. I suppose by acquiring Hayes, as I kind of noodle this through out loud, they have taken away a spot for one of the young guys to potentially earn an NHL spot. So, by trading Eller or Smith, they would reopen that spot for, Vasily Ponomarov, for Sam Poulin. It's going to be interesting for a few weeks, that's for sure. El Fusco, hey man, does the lack of moves by Dubas, is that due to high prices or teams not wanting what the Penguins have to trade? Yes. I mean, listen, let's be honest. Who's going to give a second or third round pick for Riley Smith after the season that he had? The Penguins gave up the third rounder last year, but the reality is, after his season at 32 years old, $5 million, no one's really beating down that door. Eller, on the other hand, I think Eller is worth a second round pick all day long. At least to a team that wants to be competitive. Eller fetched a second-round pick for the Washington Capitals when they traded him to Colorado a couple of years ago. The conscience, both in the room and on the ice, the intensity, and the fact that he pretty reliably is a 35-point guy. So I think at worst, Eller would be a third-round pick in return. Let's see here. But who else are the Penguins going to trade? If you trade Marcus Pettersson, now you've opened a can of worms, because who's going to take Pettersson's place? Notice, hopefully you saw on Pittsburgh Hockey Now Saturday morning, Dubas really backed away from P.O. Joseph. He confirmed the Penguins would qualify Corey Andonovsky down in Wilkes-Barre. He kind of, poo-pooed Emil Bemstrom returning, but that's no shock, right? Bemstrom had 5 points in 24 games, was not impactful, not a factor. Joseph, on the other hand, for the final 4 to 6 weeks of the season, played top pairing. And Dubas laid it out. Listen, we're going to look around the league. There's a lot of guys like P.O. who aren't getting qualified. So we're going to take a look and see if we can get, that young defenseman, top 4 defenseman, less expensive than P.O. Joseph would cost. That arbitration, because Joseph is an RFA with ARB rights, I think the ARB really backed them up a little bit. I tend to think that they still get a pretty good deal. Didn't like the fact that they're probably not going to qualify P.O. Joseph at this point. If I'm a GM and I get a chance to sign P.O. Joseph for $1.50, 1.8, maybe even 2, take that all day long. I think that's a bargain with an $88 million salary cap. I just think P.O. needs some confidence. Anyway, okay. So Sidney Cup asks, is Dubas on drugs? Is Dubas the worst GM in Penguins history? How long before fans are chanting, fire Dubas? Easy, Skippy. All right, we're in the hallway. Can we dial down the Dubas hate already? All right, that's a wild overreaction and some hyperbole. You don't like the Kevin Hayes trade. I get it. There's some things not to like about it, but I think by and large you at least see a path and direction that Dubas is taking for the Penguins. Okay, so let it play out. Let's see where it goes. And Jay Stripsky says, where does Hayes fit? I think the answer to that, the answer to where does Hayes fit is, I guess he is the fourth line center, maybe on the left wing. All right, kids, that is it for me from Vegas. I appreciate you. Do me a favor. These trips do get a little bit expensive. Subscribe to PHN Plus. We'll have a lot of exclusive content and paywall content coming up as we hit July 1st and the few days after that. I'm Dan Kingerski in the Pittsburgh Hockey Now and the National Hockey Now YouTube channel.